Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has a message for Canadians who are hoping to escape the winter cold this holiday season. Tragedy strikes an event in Australia as 5 children are killed after being swept away in an inflatable castle. And the mayor of Lethbridge is strapping on his pads this weekend for a great cause. We have the details of the Mayor's Hockey Challenge.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he understands the spread of the Omicron variant has left Canadians feeling disappointed about their Christmas holiday plans. The Liberal government is advising people to avoid non-essential international travel.
My message to Canadians, first and foremost, is I understand this sucks. Nobody wants to see Omicron arriving. No one wants to see the level of communicability we're seeing in communities, in provinces right across the country. This is not what anyone wanted for our Christmas holidays. Not much in the last year and a half has been what anybody wanted. Fortunately, we've seen what Canadians are capable of. We've seen what people are able to do to keep each other safe. And that's what we're going to stay focused on. Families, I know, will be thinking about how to keep their loved ones safe, keep themselves safe, but also how to have a bit of a moment of respite, a bit of healing, a bit of celebration at the holidays.
Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dean Shaw, said she's heard from Albertans about the negative effects the current restrictions have had on many families leading up to the Christmas holidays. She says, however, that people still need to be vigilant when it comes to battling Omicron.
I know that there is no risk-free option in front of us and that the impacts of restrictions are real. I also know that we face a very real risk of experiencing a significant fifth wave with this new variant that could be worse than previous waves in terms of overall impact on our health system due to sheer volume of cases. We simply don't know yet. No one wants to maintain restrictions for longer than possible, than absolutely necessary, but it is also true that no one wants to see our healthcare system under the strain it experienced just a few months ago or worse. In light of this, while I know this is disappointing, as we make plans for the holiday season, I ask all of us to make decisions thinking about our communities and our healthcare system.
Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley responded to the UCP government's COVID-19 update yesterday, saying that Premier Jason Kenney hasn't done enough homework when it comes to the Omicron variant.
The BC government presented modelling showing that they may see as many as 2,000 cases of Omicron by the new year. Where is the data here in Alberta? Why does this Premier continue to make decisions without showing Albertans his homework? It's highly concerning. Our healthcare system is still in dire straits. The situation on the ground in our ICUs, while improving, is still urgent and highly pressurized. There are tens of thousands of Albertans who have had their surgeries cancelled, who are still having their surgeries cancelled, who have missed out on life-saving treatment or early diagnosis because of the strain the fourth wave put on our hospitals.
The Calgary Flames announced that 2 more players and another of the team's support staff were added to the NHL's COVID-19 protocol today. That brings the total number to 30 people. Flames center Dylan Dubé and defenseman Oliver Shillington joined 16 of their teammates in protocol, while 12 other employees are also in isolation. Calgary's already seen 4 games postponed through Saturday, but it's likely more will be scratched with almost the entire roster sidelined. The NHL has seen a sharp rise in players entering COVID-19 protocol in recent weeks, including a massive jump on Monday. Officials in British Columbia say work is underway to reopen more highways damaged by extensive flooding and mudslides last month. Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says Ottawa will be helping to support recovery efforts to the tune of $5 billion.
These initial funds are earmarked to cover their disaster financial assistance arrangement responsibilities and other yet to be determined costs. This is a historic level of funding reflecting the extreme nature of the disaster and the commitment of the federal government to be true partners in this recovery. Assessing the full costs of rebuilding will be an ongoing process, and it will be some time before both estimated and final costs can be determined. But having toured the impacted areas, seeing the damage firsthand, I can say that it will be significant.
Meanwhile, the province's Transportation Minister, Rob Fleming, says the Coquihalla, which connects the Lower Mainland to the interior, is set to reopen on Monday. Well, it was another cool day in much of southwestern Alberta today. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a sneak peek of the weather forecast. Jeanette, our region may begin to look a lot like a snow globe once again.
Yeah, but at least snow globes are pretty, right? And it's the right time of year for it too. But yes, we've already had periods of snow and blowing snow this afternoon. That should continue on into this evening, then clearing up after midnight. All in all, about 2 centimeters of snow expected by this evening. And with those wind gusts up to 60 kilometers per hour, we could also experience some blowing snow this evening. Coming up later on in the newscast, I will tell you what to expect for tomorrow and for the rest of the weekend.
Great, thanks so much, Jeanette. Lethbridge police are investigating a report of another potential threat at high schools here in our community. As a result, École St. Mary, St. Francis Junior High, and Catholic Central High School East Campus were all locked down. After police completed their investigation, it was confirmed that there was no threat and the schools were allowed to reopen and students were allowed to go home. Now, this follows reported online threats Wednesday at both Winston Churchill and LCI schools here in Lethbridge. The recent colder temperatures in our region doesn't make for a very nice time of year, especially for some of our most vulnerable. Streets Alive mission is keeping busy offering all of their services to those in need. Our newest video journalist, Angela Stewart, has the details.
When the weather gets cold, the biggest concern we have is health and well-being of the population.
For over 30 years, Streets Alive mission has been a place for some of Lethbridge's most vulnerable to come and have their basic needs met.
At our mission here, we offer a warming center, open from 9 to 4 during the day. They can come in here, they can get a warm cup of coffee.
The most used service at the mission, especially when the temperature starts to drop, the pin bank.
The community has been very supportive of our pin bank, of course, as they are every year. We are always in need, especially when the weather gets cool.
Tons of donations from all over the city hit the shelves of the bank every day.
Some days it's hard to keep up with, but stuff like boots, mitts, hats, hoodies, coats, they go as quick as they come in.
And when it comes to how many clothing items a person gets when they visit the pin bank,
with every person that comes down goes a coat, mitts, hat, shoes, and boots as well. Like, we're always on a shortage of boots.
with the temperatures continuing to drop here in Lethbridge, Streets Alive says that they are seeing more and more clients come in and use their services each and every day. But when it comes to clothing donations, those are still needed as they are a really hot commodity down in the pin bank. If you'd like to donate to the mission, that can be done here in person or done at their warehouse. For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
Lethbridge Family Services has put out an urgent appeal for their Angel Tree campaign. They still need around 800 gifts to give to children in need during the Christmas season. One of the drop-off points is the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce, which will be collecting the toys and taking them over to Lethbridge Family Services.
Lethbridge Family Services is one of our chamber members, and we aim to serve and help our members as best we can. So when we saw the notice that they were still needing about 800 gifts for children, we sent out an email to our membership asking for the donations. The Lethbridge Chamber has, through our champion committee, volunteered with this for several years. We have a tree in our front entrance with the little angels on it. And even this year, we've noticed that there's just a little bit slower for donations. So we thought, well, let's just put the word out to our membership and kind of drive that forward to help them.
The Newscast Senior Center is ready to spread some Christmas joy to its seniors. A winter wonderland will take place on Friday. In order to come in, you have to bring along a non-perishable food item for the Lethbridge Food Bank. There will be live music, drinks, and prizes. The program coordinator for Newscast, Ashley Kern, says the seniors are excited to be able to come back to the center and enjoy some good company and Christmas cheer.
We've already had a lot of good feedback just as we've been decorating. We have about 30 some trees and they're all just super excited just to even see it now as is, never mind tomorrow. So I think we're going to get a really good feedback from the community and seniors because a lot of them don't decorate anymore. in their own homes, so it's nice to come out and have that sense of community. So last year we did donate a few trees to the food bank. This year we're actually going to donate a few more as well. They'll be picking those up next week, and then we're also donating the non-perishable food items back to them as well, just to give back.
Lethbridge is requiring seniors to be fully vaccinated as the centre falls under the Restriction Exemption Program. The Mayor's Community Hockey Challenge is set for this Saturday. City staff will face off against members of the community, including local media types, in a friendly game of shinny. As Micah Quinn explains now, the game is all about having fun while supporting our local food banks.
No, it's always a fun sport, a good way to stay fit.
Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Hagan is ready to strap on the pads for this year's Mayor's Community Hockey Challenge on December 18th at the ATB Centre. The game will help raise funds for the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen, the Interfaith Food Bank, the University of Lethbridge Students' Union Food Bank, and the Lethbridge College Students' Union Association Food Bank. If you're hoping to attend the event, you will have to bring a donation of a non-perishable food item. You can also donate items like winter clothing to help out our cities less fortunate.
Anything that could be brought that could help out is extremely important. So we're looking at getting everybody together, coming together as a community, something we haven't been able to do for quite some time, and get together and just have a fun time.
A team of community partners will face off against a City of Lethbridge roster, and the game will be non-contact for the 3 periods. Intermission entertainment will be put on by the Lethbridge Sport Council, which includes 8 local ice sport member organizations.
When we think, especially this time of year, how important it is that everyone has access to food. Food is just not about nourishment. It is social. It is about connecting and gathering as well, especially around Christmas and the holiday season.
The Mayor's Community Hockey Challenge is set for player warm-ups at 11 a.m. on December 18th, and puck drop will start at 11:20. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Many industries across Canada are seeing a labor shortage right now. Sometimes there are just not enough employees available to do the work. Antonio Zivanovic is the founder and CEO of the Canadian Workplace Culture Index. He says employers today really have to sell themselves to employees. He says oftentimes the ball is in the employee's court.
Organizations in the coming year are going to have to do a good job of really demonstrating their overall value proposition to recruit talent. The market is definitely an employee's market, and many people are getting multiple job offers. And I know as an organization ourselves, the talent that we're recruiting, we're trying to do a good job of sharing what we offer outside of just the salary.
Antonio Zivanovic will also talk about the shift in workplace culture with BCN's Jeanette Rocher. That's coming up after Business News. The mayor of Waukesha, Wisconsin, where 6 people were killed and dozens more were injured when an SUV plowed into a crowd, says the community is healing. U.S. First Lady Jill Biden also met with families and victims who were at that tragic Christmas parade.
We are Waukesha strong. We will continue to be Waukesha strong. Our community has not only supported each other, we were also supported by many others, including other municipalities, the county, the state, as well as the federal government.
After this tragedy, it's impossible not to ask why. But the truth is that there is no logic to this loss. It feels especially unthinkable that it happened at a Christmas parade. All of America mourns with Waukesha.
At least 5 children were killed and 3 others were critically injured after falling from an inflatable castle that was lifted 10 meters or 33 feet into the air by a gust of wind. The tragedy occurred on Australia's island state of Tasmania.
On a day when these children were meant to be celebrating their last day of primary school, instead we're all mourning their loss. Our hearts are breaking for the families and the loved ones, schoolmates, teachers of these young people who were taken too soon.
The events that have occurred today in Devonport in Tasmania are just shattering. They are just unthinkably heartbreaking. And young children on a fun day out together with their families, and it turns to such horrific tragedy at this time of year, it just breaks your heart.
Mayfield, Kentucky resident Marty Janes describes the harrowing experience of having his home cave in around him and his wife when a deadly tornado ripped through their neighborhood. Fortunately, Samaritan's Purse has been there to help.
Sirens went off, but it hit so fast, you didn't really have that much time, you know. It was so loud, Trees are falling, houses falling, and it was like a war zone. The ground shook for an hour. The longer it did, the more stuff you hear breaking, the more things are flying around. And you can hear people screaming. Excuse me. It's just unbelievable. I was trapped at one end of the house, and my wife was trapped at the other end of the house. We were yelling back and forth at each other, but we couldn't get to each other. A wall fell on me and the ceiling, and in the other room, a wall fell on her and the ceiling, and we were just trapped for a couple hours. I was covered with blood, and they whisked me to the hospital, and they said, "We see your wife, we're talking to her, we'll get her out." And then it was 24 hours before I see my wife again. She has broken legs, and it's pretty rough. Never thought I'd have to live through something like this. But I'm thankful we're alive, so possessions can be replaced, lives can't. So we just gotta be thankful for that. It's not just me, it's everybody's gonna have to start over. Some can rebuild, some can't, you know. It's just unimaginable. We need help. We need all the help we can get. Emotionally, financially, just homeless people. That's all we are, is homeless people. We're just all thankful to be alive.
Such incredible devastation. Wow. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers coaches and players loaded into the backup pickup trucks and paraded the Grey Cup in front of fans during a long-awaited back-to-back championship celebration on their home field.
Yeah, I think it's special for all of us. Again, missing a full season and, having one like we just had and, winning the championship and, playing in the stadium, was it 8 times this season, and it was just rocking the whole time. And it's going to be really special for us to be out there with our fans, and I hope special for them too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's very exciting. I can't believe it, really, because I remember all the years of not winning and just being so close and still not winning. And when I was a kid, I remember them winning the cups in the 80s, and not in the 1990 was the last one. So I remember the losses over the years. So having them win and everything going their way, that's awesome.
To get one was amazing. To get 2 in 2.5 years, phenomenal, epic, fantastic.
Congratulations again to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their fans. It'll feel more like hockey weather than football weather over the next couple of days, snowy and cold. Full weather details are coming up. We had flurries in many areas of southwestern Alberta once again, and the mercury will be dropping by quite a bit overnight. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a complete look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, it may be a good time to put that Christmas sweater on our pooches if we want to take them out for a late night walk, maybe even some snowshoes as well.
Yeah, well, I think whether you have 2 legs or 4, you should try to stay as warm as you possibly can because the temperature is about to drastically drop. Look at that overnight low this evening, -25. Also expecting some snow up to 2 centimeters and blowing snow with those wind gusts 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Into tomorrow, Friday, we're going to see the sunshine. However, we could feel a risk of frostbite because with the wind chill, it's going to feel a little bit more chilly than the -15. It's going to feel quite a bit more, especially in the morning. Saturday, overcast skies, 1 degree the high. That's going to be our nice little reprieve in there. Then we're going to get back into those minuses. Snow beginning Sunday right through Sunday night, -9 the high for Sunday, -15 for Monday with mainly overcast skies. A little bit of snow also expected Monday evening, and then into Tuesday we're seeing a high of -9 and -5 for next Wednesday. So now the average high for this time of year is actually 0. We're going to be way below that this coming up week. So we're well below seasonal average. Average low -12. We're even getting lower than that some days. 18 degrees was our high temperature back in 1980, and in 1964 we were at -32. 8:23 is when the sun rose this morning, and our sunset this afternoon 4:32 p.m. So let's take a look at the national forecast over on the west coast. A 30% chance of flurries in both Victoria and Vancouver. Both of those cities also, there's the potential for snow in the higher terrain areas as well. 6 degrees the high for Victoria, 3 in Vancouver, -18 in Edmonton with sunshine. Keep in mind wind chill factors. Same thing for Calgary. Both of those cities, those wind chill factors in the morning are going to be into the -30s, even though the high temperature for the day is in the -teens. Same for all this whole region in the prairies here. -19 the high for Saskatoon with the wind chill factors. Looking at in the high 20s, light snowfall in both Saskatoon and Regina. Winnipeg also looking at risk of frostbite and high wind chill factors as well. 6 degrees the high tomorrow in Toronto with the sunshine, mainly overcast skies in Ottawa. 4 degrees the high, 5 in Montreal tomorrow with a chance of showers there. As we look to the eastern part of the country, Fredericton looking at some showers, high of 9 degrees, 10 degrees the high in Halifax. Charlottetown 9 degrees with lots of showers there. Also looking at some flurry activity happening in St. John's, Newfoundland with a high of 0 degrees. There you have it. That is your forecast.
The City of Lethbridge announced that electric rates are going up. The average increase for a residential customer will be around $3 per month for a household using around 750 kilowatt hours a month. That translates to an increase of about 2.43%. As for commercial consumers, the increase will be slightly less at 2.37%. The increase is tied in with the electric distribution tariff bylaw, which sets the rates for customers receiving services from the City of Lethbridge Electric Utility. Stats Canada says wholesale sales climbed 1.4% in October to a record $72.5 billion. The agency says sales rose in 5 of 7 subsectors, led by a 7.1% gain in sales of motor vehicles and parts and accessories. The increase came as automakers were able to secure semiconductor chips that have been in short supply. Higher sales of lumber and other building materials helped boost sales of building and material supplies by 1.9%. Flair Airlines announced a large expansion that will more than double the size of its current fleet by mid-2023. The ultra-low-cost carrier says it will lease an additional 14 new Boeing 737 MAX jets in the next year and a half. That is on top of the 12 planes it currently has in service and 4 slated to arrive next year. Flair says that will boost its fleet to 20 aircraft next summer, and it aims to increase that to 50 within the next 5 years. The budget airline is growing rapidly in a sector of renewed competition despite pandemic headwinds. Now here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 29 points in the day to finish at 20,740. The Dow was also down 29 points to 35,898. The S&P 500 was down 41 points to 4669, and the Nasdaq was down 385 points on the day to finish at 15,180. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.05 to $71.92 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 3 cents to $3.77 US. Gold was down 4 cents to $17.9932 US an ounce. And silver was even on the day at $22.50 US an ounce. Wheat is at $12.76 per bushel. Barley's at $9.68. Canola's at $22.70. And corn is at $10.67 per bushel. Live cattle were up 28 cents to $135.28. Feeder cattle were down 85 cents to $162.58. And lean hogs were up $1.03 to $80.35. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 78.26 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Lethbridge police were investigating a report of another potential threat at high schools here in our community. As a result, Ecole St. Francis Junior High and Catholic Central High School's East Campus were all locked down. After police completed their investigation, it was confirmed that there was no threat and the schools were allowed to reopen and students were allowed to go home. This follows reported online threats Wednesday at both Winston Churchill and LSI schools. There's a labor shortage in Canada. Now, when it comes to hiring, the ball appears to be in the employee and not the employer's court. Antonio Zivanovic with Canadian Workplace Culture Index will share details with BCN's Jeanette Roche in just a moment.
With so much negativity behind us connected to 2020 and 2021, so many of us are hoping and trusting for a brighter and better 2022. Of course, one of the main needs of families is work and a good job, and one of the main needs of a business is for labor for those jobs. COVID has changed the way we work and how we work. So what are the labor and job trends for 2022? Well, joining me today from Vancouver is Canadian Workplace Culture Index founder and CEO, Antonio Zivanovic. Antonio, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Glad to have you on, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Thanks so much. Perfectly.
Awesome. So, Antonio, our experience with COVID transformed so many part of our lives here in Canada. Probably one of the biggest is how and where we work. So what is the Canadian Workplace Culture Index looking like?
We're looking at workplace satisfaction, company cares, diversity and inclusion, information and recognition, employee connection, and loyalty. So those are the different workplace attributes that we're looking at.
So when speaking of the Canadian workplace culture, how have you observed the workplace change, especially since the pandemic?
The workplace has changed. You know, the workplace is now more diverse in many ways. We're managing multi-generational workforces. They're looking for more than just ping pong culture. They're seeking growth and development opportunities. They crave mobility, learning and development, multi-generational, multi-ethnic, working from here, working from there, and almost everywhere. The new workforce is more dynamic and diverse in every way than ever before. Generationally, it's not just millennials anymore and Gen Z stampeding their way into the workforce.
Okay, I know, of course, with the pandemic too, we've seen so many layoffs and resignations, early retirements. So what are your predictions of how the labor market will evolve in 2022 and beyond?
I think the great return or not is, remote, hybrid, or in-person. Flexibility and work-life balance are not new topics, but the pandemic has shown a great spotlight on non-conventional work arrangements now more than ever before. And as companies look to the future, they're contemplating various models, with some preferring a full-scale return to the office and others contemplating remote work, and many trying to sort out the particulars of the hybrid work arrangement and various security protocols where people are working from home, whereas in the past, there wasn't such a large volume of individuals working from home. There's a new benefits and perks paradigm. Everybody's thinking about, individuality as a valued principle in today's workforce. And this is being reflected by the benefits of the perks that our different employers are offering. What was once kind of one size fits all for benefits, it has morphed into somewhat of a buffet, with progressive employers becoming increasingly creative in their offerings. Staples such as health insurance and personal development opportunities remain common, but have joined by flexibility and programs offering lifestyle wellness programs with an ever increasing number of platforms for sharing information employers can expect both successes and failures to be amplified as they kind of try to navigate this somewhat new world, but they're really considering equity and equality in their benefits. And now it's more important than ever with the workforce being so dynamic and the competition for talent being so fierce. We've seen perks like, I guess perks like free scuba lessons, pizza on Fridays, or ping pong tables have lost their luster, while rock solid benefits for employees' long-term personal and professional success, including professional development, career growth, group retirement planning, these are just some of the things that are emerging that employers are considering.
Yeah, well, that sounds like positive changes, actually, and more long-term benefits for the employee, absolutely. Would you say that it's more of an employee's market these days?
100% it is. We see employers all over that are struggling to find top talent, and they're one of the challenges I see is employers feel at times that the employees or talent pool has a lack of appreciation for what they're offering. But on the other side of things, the employers, in many respects, have done a poor job in communicating the employer value proposition outside of just salary. What are they offering to attract them, differentiate themselves, and position themselves as a leader in their industry, or somewhere that's just got a great culture? People want more than salary now. They realize, the pandemic has really brought work-life blend to the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the employee side of the labor equation, what do you find that the staff are really looking for in 2022?
Yeah, I guess overall, the youngest Canadians are less happy with their jobs, least likely to agree that their organization is a good fit for them, and least likely to see themselves working at the same organization in 5 years. Our research with the Angus Reid Institute presented that 60% of Canadians say they'd leave their current job for the same position at another organization for a 10% raise. BIPOC Canadians are three times more likely to state that they've been let go from their company because of COVID. And more than 30% of Canadians believe that they get away with bullying at their organizations. So employees over the age of 35 showed high levels of workplace satisfaction and loyalty, more loyalty than employees under the age of 35. Organizations in the coming year are going to have to do a good job of really demonstrating their overall value proposition to recruit talent. The market is definitely an employee's market, and many people are getting multiple job offers. And I know as an organization ourselves, the talent that we're recruiting, we're trying to do a good job of sharing what we offer outside of just the salary and benefit, like staple health and dental. How are we creating a culture of belonging and giving them opportunities for advancement and just overall supporting their well-being? And I think that's what people are looking for in 2022.
Right, interesting. And it looks like employee retention is kind of a problem. So are companies looking for ways to help employees identify with the culture in their workplace as a way to retain staff? I know you've also mentioned the change in benefits, and I mean, I don't know if salary will be an option, salary increases will be an option, especially we're looking at inflation in 2022 as well.
Definitely. I think salary is just kind of that's table stakes nowadays. Everybody needs to earn a living and wants a living wage, obviously, and to be compensated well. But I just was chatting with a senior partner at a large consulting firm the other day, and he shared that they gave raises to a large percentage of the team across the country, and that didn't move the dial at all. People were still exiting the organization at the same pace. And so they're really struggling to do a good job of sharing. They offer a lot of different benefits and perks to the employees, but they really haven't done a good job of packaging that and letting people know and making them aware of it. And also, employers, I think, that are very rigid in their mindset of not allowing any flexibility or accommodation, I think their time is coming and the employees are going to be exiting those organizations and looking for organizations that cater to their lifestyle needs, but also expect performance as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who would have thought that we'd seen the day where the employees can call the shots? Why do you think, Antonio, that there's such a huge paradigm shift right now? Like, did the pandemic have anything to do with it? When people got laid off, was it a time for them to reflect on what they really wanted? Or were they busy upgrading their skills and gaining new skills, making themselves more valuable to companies? What's caused this big shift?
I think it's multifactorial, really. I think the pandemic definitely shone light on that. I think for a long time, people were hesitant to trust employees to do a good job, and not being in the office 9 to 5 or dying at your desk. People have realized that you can have a remote work situation, and some organizations are going fully remote. Some were fully remote prior to the pandemic, like Zapier out of San Francisco. They've been fully remote, and they actually don't want their employees, too many of them, to congregate in one location because it's against their culture. I think now that employers are just seeing that there's a shortage of great talent out there. And as the boomers kind of get out of the workforce, there's a new generation coming in, and they have different value structure than some of the previous generations, that some people might think, well, they were ready to die at their desk. And older workers were seeking more traditional benefits and compensation for work, while younger workers, they're seeking a great culture to work with and be aligned with a great culture, and they want to be proud of the organization that they work with. Are they a B corporation? Are they thinking about just the shareholder value or all the stakeholders involved? Are they doing great work in sustainability, the environment, socially? People put their beliefs and values and align that with company values and beliefs.
That's a really good point you brought up, especially with the younger generation. Their values are completely different than some of the older generations. Like you said, they look more to the environment and see is this a green company that I'm working for? I think we're going to be seeing trends like that coming up in the future with the younger generation hitting the workforce for sure. And obviously, Antonio, like you mentioned before, so over the past 21 months, we've seen more and more people working from home. Maybe companies that wouldn't normally allow their employees to work from home, now it's happening. Do you think that this is a trend that's expected to continue? And when you compiled your research, what did you find from businesses about how do they feel about staff working remotely?
I guess it depends on the leadership. I feel like a lot of employers feel like they've been forced into a situation that they didn't really like because they weren't comfortable with it or grew up in this type of arrangement. But I also feel at the same time, there was a need. The need was there to shift and push the limit on flexibility, and it brought so many amazing opportunities to be doing interviews such as this and connecting with people, and performance wise, I think think that's where people struggle right now, is how do they perform? But I think it all starts with your hiring practices. And if you're bringing the right people in and they've got a default to action, default to transparency belief system, then you're going to be getting the right people in the door and you don't have to worry about looking over them or as an employer feeling like you don't know what they're doing.
So interesting, the world that we're living in right now. Thank you so much, Antonio, for coming on. We really appreciate having you on today.
Thank you for having me, and have a wonderful day.
Many of us look forward to the holiday season with family dinners, shopping and gift opening, church services, etc., etc. The list goes on and on because the holidays are so busy, let's face it. But for others, it can be one of the loneliest and most depressing times of the year. Well, we want to discuss how to respond to this with today's guest, Rod Dorn. He has a Master of Social Work degree and is the owner of Birch Bay Counseling Services in Medicine Hat, and we welcome him to the show today. Rod, thanks so much for being with us today. So great to have you on.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And, when I was asked to do this, it was quite an honor, but also kind of scary because Christmas is such a big part of the year for so many Canadians. And I kind of wanted to reduce it down to a manageable size. So when I think of the perceptions and understandings of Christmas, I think there's some themes. And some of these themes are, one is privilege, what we have, sharing together, connection, support, what builds us up. So some of us have that, but there's these other themes. Pain is another theme because it's kind of like that reminder of what we've lost or what we don't have, what we see others having, and we may have isolation, loneliness, disconnection.
Yeah, absolutely.
To use alliteration, sorry, a little bit further, just these P words came up, production. It's this pressure of picture perfect Christmas and keeping up with the status quo. And that can be really anxiety provoking. And there can be a lot of financial pressures and things. And then lastly, pause. We pause at this time of year because it's like, finally the culmination of everything that's happened this year, we stop and it's year end and it's Christmas and we may not be completely prepared for this overwhelming moment of kind of trying to soak in all the changes and things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you're answering my first question, which is why is it so many people get depressed during the holiday season? I mean, you're kind of explaining it there. So there's so many fun activities happening, isn't there? So maybe perhaps some people feel like, seeing others having so much fun, maybe they themselves are feeling left out somehow if they don't have family around or friends, just that loneliness.
Yes, definitely. I do agree with that. I think, these themes that I've mentioned, privilege, pain, production, pause, these can contribute in a really kind of unhealthy way. And that may lead to anxiety, depression. It may trigger common psychological struggles such as grief. And I kind of practice through this trauma-informed lens. And the trauma lens really speaks to what is the importance of understanding meaning, the attachment and the connection that we have within our communities, within our families, within how we interact in our place, I guess, in the world. And so these deep inner triggers that Christmas time that are so, in our face, I think, this can maybe trigger up abandonment, abuse. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. Something's wrong with me. I don't fit. And yeah, I think that can really be hard for so many people.
It's true. How much do you think social media might play into this? Like we often see, others sharing pictures of gifts, friends and family gatherings, and maybe we tend to compare and maybe we just feel that we don't measure up and maybe feeling some self-pity there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, social media, pop culture, this really does reinforce this belief that Christmas is a time of happiness, abundance, laughter, joy. We see all these Hallmark movies and they're in these, everything just is so perfect. But it portrays, it sort of forces us to think, well, or believe this is what is normal. And what is normal is to have this privilege, so it almost separates the ones who of us who are the haves, and yet neglects, and sometimes even in a hidden way may ostracize the have-nots. Sometimes we don't recognize our privilege, and that's maybe because we didn't experience the loss or the isolation that so many have. This critical theory of oppression really is what it is, and it's highlighted by Bob Mullally. He's a researcher, but this pulls upon this sort of disadvantages underpinning and shoring up the silent forms of oppression portrayed by the privileged and felt by the less fortunate by accident usually. So I think if we recognize all that we have and are grateful for, though, we're able to move towards sort of understanding more of the compassion that's needed, and sharing and just providing support that's needed for others who are unfortunately really struggling at this time of year.
That's maybe a good way that a person should respond if they find themselves in that comparison trap and maybe feeling sorry for themselves. And, we also perhaps have unrealistic expectations sometimes during the holiday season, like you mentioned the Hallmark movies there. Maybe we need to be okay with just an average Christmas or New Year's Day. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really convoluted and tricky time of year. I think Christmas is actually more psychological than we really give it credit for. We are in our heads a lot, I think. Um, but I think, many are misguided. What is the true meaning? And I think we need to pause and actually pace things out a little bit and ask, what is Christmas? And I mean, I don't mean to open up Pandora's box here, but however, if you look from a Christian paradigm, Christmas does have this meaning and a reality that nobody can have more or less than another. Actually, it's to say the gift of Christ the Savior. We are all living in God's grace, and we have this gift of eternal fellowship. So I think that's a message of hope, and it really brings everything back down to equality and equity. And I think, for those of us who ascribe to that, we can be thankful and content about that, even with, in the face of financial pressures and a lot of the cost of living squeeze that we're living with. But I mean, even if somebody isn't following that perspective, I think there are some major themes that we can still reconcile with more of a contemporary Christmas view. A time of compassion and connection with the world where we live. We've all been on that receiving end of compassion, probably. And, we consider maybe sharing that around as much as possible so that we can bless those who are poor in spirit and they can be reminded of love and connection, and, they can partake, I guess. I think this is sort of like a really sort of pulling on the idea of a therapeutic community, but I think these are things we can all do. And so, yeah, connection and belonging is really a healing attachment. And that's a lot of what we do, even in a therapeutic session for somebody individually.
Wow. Now, you being a counselor yourself, how serious is this holiday depression? Is it usually a temporary thing, or can it turn into something that's more permanent if it isn't handled properly?
Yeah, in my best understanding of mental health problems and these issues, I mean, it's very complicated. There's depression and anxiety and stress disorders and psychosis disorders and substance use disorders, and there's just so many different ways of I guess challenges that we have to sort of come to understand and treat. So, I mean, these things may be circumstantial. They may be biological in their formation sometimes, and they may be a little bit of both. So I think that it's this perspective that psychiatry and psychology have to come together. And we're looking at possibly a pattern of depressive, anxious, or stressful, angry thoughts triggering a nervous system. And that change may happen actually at a biological level and may account for some genetic variations later down the road. That may not be possible to reverse. So I guess there's circumstantially these things may pop up, but they may last to more pervasive things. And so I think prevention is a huge piece of mental health that as a community, as a society, as a discipline, we need to do more about prevention. The message that I really want to portray here is to encourage people to really be considerate and intentional about how their attitudes, their thoughts, their behaviors, how all of these things impact their mental well-being, which is their physical well-being. It is interconnected, and we shouldn't think of mental health as somewhere out there. The body and the mind are connected. We don't want to deplete it. We don't want to harm it. We want this connection to be holistic and nourished. And so that's how I practice. And a lot of us practice from this sort of biopsychosocial spiritual lens. It appears to me that science and natural revelation do kind of come together and show that these are interconnected.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rod, what advice do you have for friends or family who maybe see a loved one who is going through this depression? How should we respond?
Well, I think that, if we practice compassion, we can really help that person out. So we have to recognize, people are hurting for whatever reasons. And, if we offer care and support, if we share the abundance that we have with them, this is the season of giving, right? And so I think that's a big piece, and connection, like for somebody to feel like that belonging. The best things in life are not things. These are relationships. I think that, that goes a long ways in helping somebody participate and feel important and refocus their mind on some of the things that they still have versus, some of these temptations to think about the things they've lost. Courage, it can be very challenging, very difficult, and very scary to sort of go through a time of suffering. So just to honor that it's very courageous for somebody to approach their mental health problems, to move towards that pain and work through that pain wherever it's coming from inside.
Yeah.
And then another one is creativity, trying new things, new perspectives. You can find a new way, change the way you see things, and the way that you see things will change.
Oh, interesting. I like that. I know, and of course, another C word is COVID. COVID has added so many challenges to what's going on. I know here in Southern Alberta, we still have restrictions when it comes to family gatherings and visiting elderly relatives in care homes. So this also must have a significant impact on loneliness for many individuals. How should we deal with this?
Yeah, technology's that thing that, it's the blessing and the curse. It pulls us away from each other, but in some ways it pulls us closer together. And so I want to really pull on the strengths of what technology can do for us. With the advancement of Zoom, here we are, we're a few hundred kilometers away, and yet we're able to have this face-to-face chat, which is wonderful. I think we can use that. We can use that as a source of connection. If we can't physically be somewhere, if it's not allowed, if there's a restriction, we can text, we can video chat, we can write letters even, bring back the old pen pal thing. If that's what sort of our folks in the care centers and things, if that's what they have access to and that's what they're comfortable with, that could be a lot of fun, and that could mean the world for people.
Yeah. Really quick too, how would a person know that things have reached a point when they should go and get some professional help? And also, I think that some people might be scared to seek that counseling. So what would you say to those who might be hesitant to go get help?
Yeah, like I think awareness is so key in terms of finding out sort of what is the problem. And oftentimes the way I refer to it as is this is like the check engine light comes on somewhere. We know there's a problem. We may not know exactly what it is, but when the check engine light comes on, it's like symptoms. Um, I don't have as much energy. I'm sleeping. I'm oversleeping, or I can't sleep. Oftentimes, our appetite, or we're having headaches and these other somatic symptoms. Um, Maybe we're using substances to cope, and we're getting angry and irritable. People are noticing around us that we're not the same as we were before. These are all sort of like that check engine light to say, hey, like maybe it's time to sort of check in and see if there's something that is really bothering you inside, something that might be um, you know contributing to some of these sort of nervous system uh, concerns that end up sort of getting worse, sort of if not addressed. And there's no shame in addressing, when you have a mental health problem, because it's really a physical health problem just as much as a mental health problem. And there's no shame in any in going to like try to seek help for anything, whether it be, quitting smoking or going to the gym or changing your eating habits. I mean, we all have these sort of common things where we're all just a work in progress.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said there, Rod. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your insights and your wisdom and your expertise. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really thought this was a good time, and we'll see you around.
Rod Dorn is with Birch Bay Counseling Services in Medicine Hat. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.